Welcome to Six in the Six, Season 1, Episode 3. Today we have the fabulous Kristin Paolini, Roberts Wesleyan Women's Lacrosse head coach, girls manager of 3D Common Goal Lacrosse, and mother of a fabulous young lady. Good morning, Kristin.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Oh yeah, thanks for coming on. I'm excited for this as well. Before we get started, let me play our fabulous intro music.
Dance it again.
The Queen, of course. All right, beautiful. So, how you been? Summertime? No less busy for you?
I was about to say no less busy, but the nice warm weather feels a lot better than our beautiful spring weather.
Yeah, the last couple of springs have been a little difficult from a weather perspective.
Yeah.
So let's start off with a little bit of history for you and what our fabulous audience of 4 wants to know, right? But growing is what was your path to being a goalie? What made little Kristin interested in it, and briefly take us to kind of where you're at.
Yeah. Little Kristin got interested in goalkeeping because her older brother was a goalkeeper. We were about 4 years apart, and I wanted to do everything he wanted to do. Whether it was he was Superman for Halloween, I wanted to be Batman or Robin. Like, I wanted to do everything he did. So he started with goalkeeping and never looked back. And so the first stick that was put into my hands was a goalkeeping stick. So I sometimes say that I had no choice, but I don't think I would have had it any other way. It came natural. And I always say I'm not built for speed. So I like to do my 10 yards of speed within around the cage. So it was meant for me. And I started young. I started playing with the boys when I was younger, because there wasn't girls' youth back then. Way back then, there wasn't anything for us, So we had the neighborhood kids, or the kids in my elementary school that they played in the park behind my house, or they just had some pickup box games. And typically there wasn't box goalies, but I would show up with my dad, and I'd be popped in the cage. So I enjoyed it. And it took me through middle school, where my science teacher in 6th grade was actually the varsity head coach for Webster Thomas, which was Chris Barnes. So of course he started talking about lacrosse and how he's the varsity coach. And of course, little old me, he used to tell the story all the time. So I was in the back of the class, and I raised my hand and said, well, I'm a goalie. And he was like, yeah, oh, okay, you tiny you, yeah, no, okay. But 3-4 years later, when I was a freshman in high school, I was still goalie, and he pulled me up to varsity. So I showed him that little old tiny skinny me could put myself in front of some shots like a crazy woman, and be his starting varsity goalie. Where to go from there? We had a really great team, and then we won our sectional title my freshman year, or sophomore year. Sophomore year, we won sectional title, and I think it was against Penfield, and that was an exciting game. I probably won't ever forget that game, of course. And
Really?
I played other sports, but I narrowed it down to lacrosse because I wanted to play at the college level. So. Well,
it seems like, from what I know, it kind of runs in that Concordia bloodline to be a goalie. Yeah. I know there's multiple different goalies of various ages in the Rochester, New York region that have the Concordia name attached to them.
Yeah, 100%. It was my brother, myself, my cousin, and then who's just a year younger than me, and then my other cousin, who's Jordan, who's currently playing in the college level. So she's the last one. So I'm hoping my daughter, which she has that tenacity and the sass to be a goalie. So I'm hoping, or she'll kind of roll with the goalie's footsteps there.
A goalie or softball catcher or baseball catcher.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, that's true. She's got it. Yep. I'll stick with the lacrosse then.
How do
so.
you so we're probably gonna get a bonus question thrown in here because you making me think of it. How much influence on what we just mentioned about the number of goalies in your bloodline do you think was inspired by your dad? I mean, he was obviously big time into goalies and all of that. Was he a major force in some of this?
Oh, of course. I think that, you know, his passion for learning and his passion for teaching, you know, you wanted to learn from him. Of course, it's hard to like have a family member be your coach throughout the years, whether it's an uncle or it's a father. So, you know, it's hard to like separate the two, because there's many times where I'm like, Dad, I'm not listening to you. And then the next year I'm like, can you go shoot on me in the backyard, or like, what do I got to do? But I think it's like, he never obviously played the game of lacrosse. He played football and baseball when he was younger. So he studied the game with those old videotapes, those old books that he had to like figure out how to make the female style of everything. And so, you know, his passion for goalkeeping, you know, you wanted to learn from him. And, you know, he made you love goalkeeping, because a lot of times people just, you know, oh, you want to be goalie? Okay, here's a bunch of equipment that's going to make you hot and sweaty as a young girl and say, I don't like this. And then you're going to stand in cage and in the hot sun and just like save the ball or just get pummeled with shots. So he made it fun and exciting and different ways of learning. And he knew when to take breaks when we needed it, you know, so he kept you going from the developmental youth stage to growing up, becoming a teenager, and like having so many different priorities and still loving goalkeeping. And now people are went to college for it. So, or just it's still around. So, you know, he had a lot to do with, with the passion for goalkeeping, I should say.
I love that. And I just love the way you articulated his passion for that and his love for teaching all levels and the details of the sport. And I know from experience, you don't have to have played the position to be an awesome goalie coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Give it a nice big one for you. Absolutely, John.
All right. That's enough about me for the moment here. So we talked a little bit about your dad, and you mentioned Coach Barnes as well. How influential as you went through the high school years, from raising your hand in the back of that class kind of onward until you graduated as a senior, how influential was Coach Barnes to your development and instilling the love of your game?
Yeah, I mean, both Coach Barnes and Coach Hanley, it's probably hard having a freshman come into a team. And I think there's 2 junior goalkeepers at the time, and then completely choosing, having faith in that freshman goalkeeper to be at the competitive level and at the varsity level. So I think having both of their faith, but Barnes' faith in me of being able to step in and not shy away from anything, was huge, because then I started to believe in myself. I started to say, like, okay, I have passion for other sports, but I don't need to do these other sports to be fulfilled. I can work year round, working hard to be a goalkeeper. I can work hard for my high school team and get to a point where I might want to do this at the college level, which I didn't think about until like junior year, right? I mean, it's so much different nowadays, but, and then once it got to a point where I was committed and I really wanted to play at the college level, he definitely assisted with all of that. Of course, there was club, and I was with Lady Rock when it kind of first started over there, but he was good friends with the Siena coach, and so he had conversations with him, and his faith in me trickled into Siena, and so I was able to get a scholarship and go to play Division I. But I think just having somebody's faith in me and letting me just do my thing and be the goalkeeper that I was, because I wasn't a stationary goalkeeper. I had a little ADHD in the cage, right? I was going to get those ground balls, going to make interceptions, and then I started to love to hear the goalie, get back in your cage, or like, hurry up, get back, hurry, get back. I loved hearing that, because I knew I would get back, but like I wanted to go out and be very active. So letting me kind of break the mold a little bit at that time to be myself, never thinking about it until like you asked the question. It's played a huge part.
I love that. And I think one of the reasons you ended up being so successful between the pipes is you were, like you had mentioned, the coaches put that faith in you and kind of built that confidence and that self-belief in yourself, but they also gave you the space to kind of cognitively figure things out and kind of grow into who you were, and they didn't try to make a robot. So I enjoy that style. And as you know, and as our Roberts goalies know, we both enjoy a more active goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Until some of our other assistants yell, "Hey, get back in the cage."
And they're like, "Don't listen."
Leave her alone, leave her alone.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So you mentioned Sienna, and from what I know about you, you have deep family ties and are really into the family environment. How difficult was it for you to move? What was that, 4 hours away down the thruway to the Albany region? And did you feel your freshman blues, or whatever they call them, was a little more a little more than maybe some people because of your distance?
Yeah, I mean, if I look back at it, I was sad going to school every year. Like, I didn't want to leave my family, my friends. But with college sports, you get that family aspect as well. So you make friends, you make family there. You start to build that foundation, but it was very hard, but I just remember my dad saying, like, "Okay, come home, go to MCC, come home." And I'm like, "No, I want to play at Sienna. I want to be here." He's like, "Well, then stop complaining, enjoy it." And then my family made it easy, really. They visited. My dad was at every single game, whether it was at Sienna or if it was at an away game where Vermont, Long Island, like he was there. So I was able to have that family and that connection consistently throughout the springtime. And then of course my sister, who's probably a year younger than me, year and a half younger than me, she ended up going to UAlbany. So we found our way back to each other, even though we fought like cats and dogs when we were younger. We found our way back to each other at the Albany area, and we kind of made it a little bit of a home. But it's difficult, but you've got to be able to find the right resources, right? Be able to communicate to talk to your family through it, talk to your teammates, your coaches. And that's something that, like, I had that with my family, with my dad, of being able to talk through my frustrations. And you see that not a lot of people do that. Not a lot of people have that. They would transfer right away, but I am so grateful I stuck it out and was able to see what I could do and how happy
Yeah, and I feel your father.
I
Oh, technical glitch. The joy of camping and being in a vehicle.
That's all right. I'm just glad you're back. Yeah.
So I have to imagine your father being a goalie coach, and the way he was in his coaching style was a very empathetic, but at the same time a tough love kind of ear, and maybe that was a better sounding board than a non-coaching parent would have been.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I don't think he became a teddy bear or empathetic until I got him on the coaching staff at Roberts Wesleyan, and then he realized, like, these girls go through so much within just one day. So he was definitely that, like, tough cookie, tough love. But like you said, that's like definitely something you needed, because sometimes you just have to figure it out on yourself and find the right resources, especially being 4 hours away. And it worked, and I was able to stick it out and have success and love what I do, and met my husband. If I went home, I probably wouldn't have done that, so it all works out.
They say everything always does, right?
Yeah.
So at what point in your playing career, and maybe it was after your playing career, but at what point did you was the seed planted that you wanted to be a head coach?
That's a very good question. I graduated from Siena and didn't know what I wanted to do, honestly. I went to school for psychology and I was like, no way do I want to sit. I would say I don't want to sit and listen to people's problems, but that's honestly what I do as a head coach. I sit and I listen to people and I help them through things and I direct them in the right way. So it's like I'm using my degree there. But I graduated Siena and I think it was like a year later. So I was going through sports administration with Canisius online program. So for my master. So I know I wanted to be in athletics. The administrative side, the compliance side, that all like really interested me. So I wanted to get into that side of it. I love coaching the youth. I love coaching the young kids. I love like showing them like how much fun they could have playing the sport, because I knew that once you get to a certain high level, like it could become a job if you don't truly love what you do, you know? So, but the head coaching seed didn't get planted really until my head coach at Siena left for another school and they're looking for a head coach. And I was like a year and a half out of, probably out of Siena. And I had girls texting me that on team, they're like, are you applying? And I'm like, am I applying to the head coach at Siena? Like, are you like, no guys,
Me?
like, no, I don't know where you're getting that idea. I'm flattered, I guess, you know, but maybe I'll apply for the assistant if it opens up, or like if that person, you know, doesn't have anybody else in mind. But that they planted that in my head of like, wow, maybe I do have those leadership qualities, being able to not just run a team with the X's and O's, but, you know, have somebody be, you know, have them see me as like a head coach. So that was like when the seed was planted, but it was a crazy way to plant a seed.
Yeah, that crazy, but that had to be kind of satisfying in the sense that you had former teammates thinking, you know, they valued that aspect of your personality or your playing style or whatever, that they saw that in you and
Yeah.
kind of nudged you towards that a little.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know how much value I take on being a captain. And you know that with like the captain roles here at Roberts, but I wasn't a captain at Siena, you know, and you could still be a leader, you know, you could still own your own leadership qualities. You can still be an influential role within your teammates, whether it's being that close friend or being that like huge role model of, you know, listening to coaches, discipline. So even though I wasn't made captain and it was absolutely devastating for me at the time, you know, I still tried to be who I wanted to be as a leader. And when they reached out and were like, are you going to apply? I was like, I wasn't even your captain. Like I wasn't even your leader, you know? But like, maybe I can do that. Maybe I didn't need to be a captain to be able to be a possibly good head coach.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned your love of the youth, and obviously you have a love of the college game. How do you feel you kind of leverage your strength of being a coach of those different levels to help primarily at the younger level, but does it also kind of flip around and you use some of the younger skills with the older girls?
That's a great question. I mean, because I go from college to I coach seventh graders. And so that's a huge difference. The huge attention span is different. The discipline is different. Values are different. So it's humbling. It really is. Like I enjoy it because I bring to the younger girls, I bring discipline to them. Like these are the things that are going to matter to you at the high school level. And if you guys want to play at the college level, like these are the things that you guys are going to have to master now, like thinking the next step ahead, or just focusing on learning during drills and then just trying to apply it during live play or other drills. Like just having that cognitive, like trying to figure out from drill to drill is going to be huge for them at the high school level and the college level, because they can grasp and just do it, you know? But then they bring me down a notch where I need to breathe and I need to be like, okay, so many different questions about everything, you know, some of them not to do with lacrosse. They bring my patience back, right? Like I have to breathe and I get to talk to them and connect with them and talk to them about school and boys. And so I'm like, well, you guys are still kids, like, let's make this fun. So it helps me because it brings me to that college level of, I don't need to be all serious all the time. You don't need to enforce the discipline every single time. Like, you can give girls breaks. You can say like, hey, I'm like, pick it up here. Like, I see you working hard, but like, we're slowing down. Or let's just not play lacrosse today and play flag football, or let's, play some relay games or something. Put your sticks away. Of course they're all like, no sticks and mouth guards. Like, are we on the line? But it's like, I'm having my own PTSD with that. But like, you got to bring some fun back to the college level, to the older girls, because like I said before, like, you've got to, I'm not doing my job of putting the best product on the field if they're not loving the game. If they don't love the game, it's hard, and it's hard to connect with everybody to find kind of how to bring the love of the game back. So I really enjoy going from spring to summer, because then I'm like, I know what I could have done with this person at college. Like, I know I should have done this a little bit more to like bring the fun back, so they both help me out in so many ways, and allow me to be a better coach kind of all around.
I think that's so important, just keeping that fun in it and kind of that passion, that fire alive. I think we tend to forget at the older ages that they're still really kids. They're not out of school. They're just old kids. But the other thing, at least for me, I like to think about how can I help young women into the coaching ranks, and you don't necessarily realize who you may be discouraging if you take that fun away from them and they don't want to continue that past where they're at. So I think, fun, good time, mixing it up. I'm full on board with all that. So love that. Let's talk about 2021 a little bit. I think 2021 was probably a little bit of an emotional roller coaster for you. Under your leadership and guidance, the Roberts team, Roberts program, which includes everyone up to that point, historic year for that entire organization. Congrats on that. Couple at the same time, new mom the same year. So, I mean, you missed some of that ride. You were a part of some of that ride. Lonnie came along. I mean, can you talk a little bit about that emotional roller coaster you took?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was an emotional roller coaster. I think that it was immediately hard when I'm watching games from the computer from home with, of course I've got my daughter with me, so I know she's my priority at the moment, but like, it was really hard because like you said, like it was a journey to get there, and working there and working these girls from, I first started to these girls where they're at now. So it was hard to see that, but I knew that they were in great hands with, with Coach P and you. I knew that they would, as a coaching staff, we embody the same things. We're coaching the same things. So I knew that they were in good hands, but it was very difficult to be able to sit on the sidelines and watch it. And so I think I came back, I think it was Grand Valley. It was my first game back. And it was like, I didn't want to leave. I was like, well, I gotta go home. Like, no, I want to keep, like, I'm all right. So I emailed my boss, the AD, and I was like, how do I get out of maternity leave? And how do I come back? He was like, just send an email. And he's like, when's your start date? And I was like, yesterday. My start date's yesterday. Like, I'm back. But what's great about you guys as coaches, and Pete, I was able to be back when I could be because of practices, but yeah, be there available for games. And then, when we made it to the conference tournament, and then we made it to the NCAA regionals, everything, I was able to bring Lonnie along, which, I contribute a lot of that to my mother too, because she came with me. So I was able to have somebody there to take care of my daughter while I was coaching on the field. But, and then obviously my in-laws are from kind of the area of Long Island in Connecticut. So I was able to have Lonnie with them while I went to the conference championship and came back with a conference title. But I couldn't do it by myself. That's the one thing, looking back at it, like, I could not do that all by myself. My husband was great. My coaching staff was great. Families to be able to take care of that, or allow me to drive to Virginia with a 3-month-old, right? Like, I wouldn't be able to do it with all of them. So it's like, it was an awesome roller coaster for sure. Looking back at it, I'd like to try to plan another child around the lacrosse season. But it's not easier said than done. And so it's like, I appreciate everything. Of course, it was hard to like look back and be like, wish I was coaching a part of it, because it's hard to like say I was a part of it. But I got to remind myself too that it didn't just come from one year. You know, it came from our COVID year that we were on a roll, and then years prior of just building a foundation with our alumni of getting the job rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, what I took out of that primarily, and what I'd like to emphasize back, is that I think a lot of times for women coaches, I think they have a hard time balancing, oh, can I be a mother and can I be a good coach? Can I do both of those? And I think the point you hit on, that, you know, it's a sign of strength to be able to ask for help and rely on that village. And, you know, you can get all that done. So any aspiring women coaches out there, you can have it all, right?
I know, I agree. And I think that too, you know, a little bit going off of that, what reminded me a lot during the season was that these girls are young women that also love the sport, that could possibly get into coaching or have different jobs, and also aspire to be mothers too. So like showing them that it's something that can be done, that you could bring your daughter or your child, you know, places and have them witness everything and kind of show that you can be both, you know, gave a little bit of a strength to me. That was like, you know, got to be a great role model to these young girls that, you know, to aspire to have a family and have a job and do both, you know, successfully.
Yeah. And if you can see it, you can be it kind of thing. And kind of the piece I love about that is you're like imperfectly perfect. Just I think the vulnerability and the transparency kind of you bring and show. I think for them, they can see kind of all the warts and maybe flaws and difficulties and stuff like that, and see that you still fought through and made it successful. So I
appreciate that.
All right, so a lot of lacrosse influence for Lonnie early on, Final Four, you know, all of that good stuff. So a little bit of the baseball influence at home from Dan. Lacrosse or softball catcher?
Dan is giving her a golf club. He says golf, like he is keeping her away from baseball. He's like, it's lacrosse, and then he wants to get her into golf. So I don't even know if softball or baseball are in the cards for her, unless she like totally catches us off guard and wants to do t-ball or something like that. But he is pushing for golf, because that was his passion post professional ball. So we'll see.
All right, you know, it could be the first professional women on the PGA Tour.
He will. Once he sees this, he's gonna love hearing that.
I didn't fact check. Maybe there has. I don't think there's been a full-time woman on that tour, but you never know. All right, so last one, and if you watched the episode with Shauna, you know what question's coming here. So Shauna wanted to ask you. Well, she didn't know it was you. So what about the game makes you love it so much? And then how do you keep yourself energized and having that fun for yourself through your coaching role?
Yeah, I think what makes it, she's a great question. I think being able to coach different levels of the sport keeps me energized. And knowing that like I had so much fun playing the sport of lacrosse that I want to be able to give it back. That's like the huge, I know we talked a lot about it, but like the serious fun aspect of it. Because you can learn so much from playing a sport and not just playing the game, but like you can learn about how to be a great leader, how to be a great follower, right? How to work hard for somebody, how to respect somebody, how to work for somebody that you might not respect, right? Like how do you fight through that? So being able to teach these girls that is much more than just lacrosse. Like once you graduate college, like you can utilize everything you learned from us as your coaches playing the sport, allows me to love it all year after year and keeps me energized. Because I got to remind myself, I tell myself all the time, if they graduate better people or just more prepared, young women than they came in, I did my job, and it's not just lacrosse. It's, just being a, a role model for whatever they want to do in their life. So that really like has me keeping the love of what I do, in the game, and keeping me energized. And I love how the game is always changing. So I'm constantly learning and being humbled of how rules change. And I yell out one thing and then I'm saying like, that's not a rule anymore. And I'm like, my bad, so it's like, I love the constant learning of the game.
That's awesome. I love it. I think sometimes when we yell out, maybe the refs don't always know the updates either, but
Yeah,
we can save that for a different episode.
that's true. They could be from high school to college, who knows where they just officiated.
Well, that's the one thing. It's interesting. I don't want to say complaining about that. I was talking about that the other day with a goalie parent I was working with, because they were asking me questions about the youth level goalie rules. And I was like, oh my God, hold on. I got to think about this. And I really wish they'd standardize them across levels. I mean, obviously you could ramp them up or down or whatever based on that. But there's so many, you can do this at that level and you can't at this level. And you got to kind of feel bad for the refs that do all the games and having to flip flop and forth. That's a big rule book to follow.
Yeah.
Times three.
No, I agree. I agree.
So, well, I love that answer. That was awesome. So, as you know, I didn't prep you with any questions, because what fun would that be? So, what didn't I ask that you were hoping I'd ask?
No, you did a really good job. I mean, I was really nervous. I was like, I don't have questions. How am I supposed to answer these? But yeah, no, but you did it. I mean, you answered everything. I think that, and we touched on a lot of stuff that I would love, I would love this to get out to more people, so that way they can, they can hear about the different interworkings of where you can start as a little goalkeeper to kind of being a head coach of a program. Because that's a lot of things. Is like a lot of people don't think goalkeepers can see the entire field or know the offensive end, right? But we're back there seeing everything. So I had fun.
Well, my reach is slowly expanding, so maybe this one will get a little further out, and we can get that message out a little more. So last to end it up, for whoever happens to be next on this, which I think I know who it is, but I'm not going to tell you. That would skew the question. What would you like to ask whoever's next?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I had like 3 questions, and now I'm like, I gotta narrow these down here.
Pressure, you're on the spot now.
I know. I would say I would ask, if the passion wasn't for goalkeeping, where would their passions lie?
That's actually a very good question for the next guest. So
really,
yeah.
Maybe we worked together for so long, but I'm like reading your mind.
Oh man, get out! It's mine. Get out.
I'm reading your mind.
Kristin, that was awesome. Thank you so much for jumping on and spending some time with us. And I will certainly be seeing you soon, at least when this is recorded. I'm not sure when it'll get out there, but a couple days.
Yes.
Youth camp, let's go.
Awesome.
Thank you again. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, John.
Talk to everyone later.
As always. Bye.